Hello and welcome to our overview of the default settings in BytePro. There are several videos covering this topic in some of the more robust sections, such as the conditions screen for BytePro Enterprise, tasks, and the Good Faith Estimate all have their own videos that cover their specific default settings, so be sure and check out those videos in that series. This video and its follow-on video cover the general overview of the defaults menu and cover the sections that start with the letters A through G, and the next video covers H through Z. So let's open up BytePro and take a look at the default settings. Okay, so here we are in BytePro. To get to the defaults, go up to Customize and click on Defaults. And this will open up the Defaults menu. As you can see, all the different default settings are arranged alphabetically, starting with the numbers on top and heading on down the list. There's several different types of default settings. Some of them cover specific screens, while others cover specific documents and functions within BytePro. We'll just head on down through the list and cover some of the basic settings. As you can see, the first sections cover your 1003. If you go into 1003 page 1, you can see that you can customize your default paper size, choose whether you want it to print on legal or letter, and you can also select the different manners in which title will be held. And if you need to delete some of these because they're ones that you're not going to use, or if you want to add ones as well, you can do that right here. Go down to other items on the 1003, such as your vacancy factors. You can set your vacancy factors for conventional loans, FHAs, VAs, set all of those right here. Details of transaction, you can put the settings for the other credit section right here, exactly what those are going to display. Your declarations, hide and fill the copy buttons to prevent users from autofilling answers to the declarations. That's if you want them to specifically go through each one of the declarations and fill them in. You can check this box right here and it will not use the autofill button. And so on and so forth. You can see that you can also print the application date on the signature line, print the loan officer's name on the signature line, print the loan officer's license number. You have all of these options right here within this screen. You go to the 1003 page 4. You can see there's a checkbox that will print the Patriot Act information on page 4 if you'd like. Information needs to be displayed, so you can check that box right here and include that on your page 4 of your 1004. You can also add custom text as well that will print at the bottom of page 4. You can include that right here. So if there's something specific that you need to include, you can add that right here. You see we give you buttons for some of the text for different states. For example, in Ohio, there's custom text that you want to put here. Rhode Island, it'll ask if you want to replace it. In California, and so forth. Moving on down the list, go to our alerts section. Here's where you can set up your alerts. You can put your default number of business days for your alerts, what's going to show up in there. You can set those numbers right here, and also who's going to be notified on your alerts. Very simple, just click on the link, check the box of the parties you want notified right here. Schedule your approval date. You can add that in down here. Put your default number of business days for the red and yellow alerts for your approval dates down here. And also notify who's going to be notified in those sections as well. And the same is true for your close date as well down on the bottom. So lock expiration, approval date, close date, all cover your default alert settings right here. Now, one example of a specific document, you can go to your anti-steering. This is where you can control the settings for your anti-steering disclosure. Do you want your APR shown, origination points and discount points calculation options, all feeds, the broker and the lender, loan origination fee and discount points, and so on and so forth. Borrower acknowledgement, custom extra bullet item text, different items that you can include, as well as whether you want the loan originators to have a signature line at the bottom and whether or not you want to have a company representative signature line at the bottom. Your ARM disclosure, you can see on your ARM disclosure is just simply one question, whether or not you want to use your note rate or your fully indexed rate for the calculation on page 2 of that disclosure. Heading on down the list, you can check out your borrower's cert. This is where your borrower's certification and authorization, where you can customize the text for that form as well. So if you have specific language that you want to include, you can do that here. Your business days. Your business days are used specifically, for example, on GFE page 1, where it fills in the default fill button. You can use those. You can use this section to set up what exactly you define a business day as. Are you closed on Saturdays? And you can check this box here. What holidays you're observing are right here, as well as certain other special days in these checkboxes, like the day after Thanksgiving. Do you include that as a business day or not? Fridays before holidays that fall on Saturdays, and Mondays after holidays that fall on Sundays. And then if there's additional holidays that you need to add, you could do that down here by hitting the plus button and just simply entering the date in the description. And it will include those additional holidays so that they are not used in your business day calculation. Going down, you go to CBC Innovus. This is an example of one of our default settings for the various interfaces that we have within BiPro. There's 2 different ways that you can set up the default settings for interfaces. A number of them are included in here. You'll see CBC Innovus, Corvisa, and some of the other ones, DocMagic, are all in here. Some of them have direct links in the interface section themselves, and that's the only way that you can access them. So if you don't see them in this list, don't think there's no settings for them. That just means that you need to specifically go to their individual section in here. So let's say for Alliance, what you can do is go in here and click on the Alliance default settings right here, and it will allow you to enter the username and password for that particular interface. But a number of them are listed in the default section right here, like CBC and Corvisa and such. Heading on down the list, go to our change circumstance. This is where you can customize the wording at the top of the form as well as the wording at the bottom of the form, and whether or not you want to have a signature line on your change circumstance. A number of people, when you have a change circumstance in your GFE, like to get this form signed by the borrower as an acknowledgement that they're acknowledging that change. So you can add those signature lines here. Your closing cost worksheet. If you're using your closing cost worksheet, this is once again a section where you can customize the wording that is placed on the top of the form, as well as the wording on the bottom of the form. Once again, include signature lines. You can add whether or not you want to include the HUD numbers on the closing cost worksheet. And then you could also, at the bottom, you can control which one of the equal housing logos you use. And then this is going to depend on your location. Different locations require different logos to be used. So we have both the equal housing opportunity and the equal housing lenders down here at the bottom. Go down to your company information. Company information is where you're going to enter your company's license numbers. License numbers such as your company's NMLS ID, the branch's NMLS ID, and the tax ID. Are going to be entered right here. Personal NMLS IDs are going to be entered in the user section of the security manager. This section is specifically for the company's information. Heading down to the conversation log. The only choice that you need to make here is whether or not previously entered notes can be edited in the conversation log. If you have this set so that you can allow that those are allowed, that means any past conversation items can be edited by anybody who's entering the conversation log. Typically, we recommend that you prevent this so that you can keep the running dialogue unedited and only add new comments. But it's completely up to you how you want to set it up. Custom fields. This is where you're going to set up the custom fields section if you're using it to create custom reports, or if you're using it as creating additional fields for conditions or whatever you are going to be using those custom fields for. This is where you will set those up. What you would do is just select the custom field, double click on it, name it, so you can give a specific name to that field that will be displayed on the screen, and then select the field type. You can change it into a text field, a currency field, number, date, or a true false. You can also choose whether it's going to be a calculated field. And if it's going to be a calculated field, this is where you would select the insert field section. This takes you to our data section that has all of the fields listed within BytePro. And you can select the specific fields that you are going to use in your calculation. I'll give you some examples as well. So up here in this drop down, there's several different examples. So if you wanted to see how to do simple addition, it would show you that you simply put the one field plus the other field, and so on and so forth. Close out of this. Moving on down the list. Go to the dashboard. This is a section right here where you're going to customize your dashboard. Now, you can include either built-in reports, custom reports, or web pages. Built-in reports or custom reports, simply select the report and type in the display name that you want to show here. You can also include web pages, and the name that's going to be displayed for that web page is entered here, and then enter the URL address down below. And you can enter up to 10 different items that will appear on your dashboard. Now, this section comes as a user-defined option out of the box, meaning that this is customizable for the independent users. That's what this single computer that's showing right here means. Now, you can change that setting by clicking on this, and you have several options where you can change this to a shared setting. So depending upon how your administrator wants to customize the settings, this is where you can control whether it's going to be a shared setting across your entire organization or it's going to be a user-defined setting. And you can see this appears next to all of the different entries, and you'll see that throughout the defaults menu. You're dialing really quickly. If you're using a dialing software where you want to dial directly from BytePro, you can do that right here. We give you specific examples on how you need to set that up. And it'll be dependent upon the dialing software that you're using as far as how exactly you will set this up. See that we have our disclaimer at the bottom. It says to see your phone dialing software's documentation for details on how to invoke the command line, and that we cannot provide support on how to set this up for you. Going on further down to your ECOA, you can see that your ECOA sections, once again, you can customize the wording for that particular section. Your occupancy statement, customize it down below, and so on and so forth. Your copy of your appraisal report, FHA loans, government loans, employee certification, and there's checkboxes for all of these if you want to omit a particular section. Emailing. If you're going to be emailing directly from BytePro, this is where you're going to set up that function. First thing you have to select is up at the top your emailing method. Mappy is going to be if you're using one of your typical email programs like an Outlook or something along those lines, you're going to use Mappy. If you're using a specific outside email source like a Gmail or a Hotmail, something along those lines, you're going to set it up as SMTP. Now when you do that, your SMTP settings are going to come up. Click on this button right here, and we actually have some of the major carriers set up over here on the right hand side. You can see we've got AOL, Gmail, Hotmail, and Yahoo, and all you have to do is click on their particular settings and it will auto-populate their SMTP server setup. If your particular provider is not listed there, you would simply have to go into their help file and find out what their SMTP server setting is and type it in right here along with the connection and the port. Then you would enter your username and your password and you'll be able to email directly from Byte. I use Outlook, so I'm going to go ahead and put mine back to Mappy. Also in this section is your password protection for PDFs and when you're emailing loan files, and whether or not you're going to require that you would add password protection to those, and whether or not you will allow the password to be emailed separately. That's these checkboxes right here. And you can also set up the location for your PDF, where your saved PDFs are going to head. Down the list, your Fannie Mae section, this is where you're going to enter your usernames for DO and DU. Once again, these are user-defined settings, so if you have each user has a different setting, you can edit those here. If you have a company username and password that you use, you can change these over to shared, or you can send them to personal and lock them down so that independent users cannot play with them. And by going over here and changing it to personal locked, entering those settings, and they won't be able to be changed. Your favorites. We actually covered this in the 7.0 user interface video on how exactly to customize your favorites. That'll be done right here. You can simply check the box next to the screens that you want to appear on your favorites menu, and then you can also move them around on the list so you can arrange them in the order that you want. You can also customize your icons in your main and your overview toolbars right here from the screen. And like I said, I'll go into deeper detail on how to do that in the 7.0 user setup video. The FHA settings, this is where you can enter your FHA lender ID and FHA sponsor ID and set them into the system. And then finally, as you head down, you can see there's a number of different screens for the GFE settings. Since there's so many different things that you can control in here, we actually have an entire video that is devoted exclusively to these settings. So be sure and check out the defaults video for the GFE to get the more in-depth coverage of this section. That wraps up our initial defaults video that covers the sections A through G. Be sure and check out our next video, which covers the rest of the default setting for H through Z. And if you can't find the information that you're looking for, you can always go and refer back to our help guide by clicking on Help up at the top and going down to the defaults section. You can see we've got a rather robust section here that covers a lot of the different information that I've already stated here, and possibly some of the other ones that I might have not have covered. And if after checking the help guide you still can't find what you're looking for, then by all means click on the help link and go to our technical support link. Here you'll find our technical support's phone number, and always be sure and include your user number whenever you give us a call so we can help you more quickly. And you can also email technical support by clicking on this link right here. Thank you for using Byte Pro, and thank you for your time.